Thanks for having me, Brendan. I'm going to go back about 4 years and kind of give you the story from the beginning. I was competing in CrossFit and I went to a competition and I wasn't feeling right. I hadn't been feeling right for like 2 or 3 months. I wasn't sure what exactly was wrong with me. I had like nuanced minor symptoms and they all blew up and came to a head when I was in the middle of a CrossFit competition, which wasn't my brightest moment. I went for a lift. I felt like I couldn't engage my core. I could not protect my spine. And I injured my back pretty badly, actually, at this competition because I had, unbeknownst to me at the time, a bunch of internal inflammation that was due to a UTI that hadn't been diagnosed as a UTI because I was testing negative again and again. So I kind of just like floated around, not sure what was going on with me. And this lasted for about 9 months until I did like deep dive research into UTI symptoms, into realizing like, oh, UTIs can test negative on doctor's tests. That was all stuff that was news to me, and it took me like 9 months to a year to kind of figure it out.
So when you say doctor's test, did you have to use a specialty laboratory to confirm it?
I did not go through a specialty laboratory because I was going through my GP and my urologist at the time. So we just did whatever. I wasn't sure exactly what the tests were, but I did whatever my doctors and specialists recommended to me. So that's kind of like where I started and how I navigated this up until that point. And I had tested negative on about 2 to 3 tests back in 2017 before I finally tested positive for a UTI. That was kind of like one of the most shocking things to me was that like I had a UTI floating around in my system for like 9 months before it even became present on a test.
And it was the same test over and over, but it took 9 months to finally get it.
Yeah, I was negatively presenting. I had it. I was negatively presenting. Like I was really healthy at the time. I think my body was doing a pretty good job at keeping it in check, yet I was still sick for like 9 months. I just was in a higher state of fitness and really taking care of my body. So there was this, I imagine, push and pull between, like the bacterial infection and my body's immune system that just kept going back and forth for 9 months. So finally I test positive. My doctor starts giving me antibiotics. I don't remember what the antibiotics were at the time, but it's something that's pretty standard for treating UTIs in women. So I took the antibiotics. Within like 2 days, I started feeling much better. And like, keep in mind, I was having like memory issues. I was having word recall issues. I was having like inflammation. Another one of my symptoms was like, I'm just going to give it to you totally straight here because I feel it's helpful for other people to just connect with some of these like more nuanced symptoms that they might not notice are actually UTI. I had like a really weak urine stream too. And I thought that was really odd. And I had just kind of gotten used to that, thinking like, oh, this is just what's going on with my body now. I'm 38 and now I have weak urine. So fortunately, like that's been resolved, but that was a symptom that I didn't realize was a symptom, amongst like a host of all kinds of other small things. So
yeah, you mentioned the cognitive stuff, and I was not aware until you brought that up recently, and I started digging. And sometimes a UTI in a healthy adult can present the symptoms that appear like it's some sort of dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I was pretty blown away by that. It wasn't until I saw a urologist slash gynecologist combo who's like really, really specialized in the whole reproductive and urinary tract. It wasn't until I saw him for the first time that he made me aware that it's really common, especially in older people, but not super uncommon even in younger people that are dealing with chronic UTI, to have like some memory loss and some foggy brain syndrome going on. And that even to the point where it like gets misdiagnosed as dementia and Alzheimer's in older people. So wow. Yeah, it's like a kind of a serious thing,
Yeah. I didn't realize the cognitive effects that people are experiencing, because for the most part, I think they're focused on the pain and the other difficulties. because I haven't heard much of this part of it. However, I could also see that being in pain distracts you from those other types of symptoms. But that's really interesting to know that this is actually impairing people uh, cognitively. That's something I'm definitely going to be doing some more digging on, and can actually make a video about it, because that's I think more awareness needs to be brought to that specifically.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I think women wouldn't tie together, foggy mind and UTI infections. They might tie together like PMS syndrome, or perhaps getting their period, to maybe a slight drop in cognitive ability for a week, maybe like a whole host of other things. But I know for me, at least, I just never would have connected those two things unless a specialist had connected them for me. But I started taking it really seriously when he shared this with me. So I was like, wow, I've had massive fog mind for a year now. Like, could this be attributed to that? So I took the antibiotics, and within like 2 days, I felt great. Like, I did a whole 180, and I thought, okay, well, this is definitely what's going on with me. I have definitely been dealing with UTI. And I guess, like, I'd say the effects from the antibiotics gave me about a 2 week window of feeling normal and good and healthy and strong, until I slowly started to get some of those symptoms that would return. And like, my personal symptoms weren't, most of the time, like pain urinating. I didn't get that. I got a whole host of other wacky, strange symptoms that were UTI that didn't present. I can't say that they don't present normally, because this might be something that is like really normal across the board, but at least awareness of these more nuanced symptoms I wasn't aware of, and I don't know that a lot of other people are too. So, like I said, within 2 weeks of taking the antibiotics, I started like having weak urine streams again, like slowly fog brain would creep back in. And I thought to myself, like, there's no way this is like UTI again. I just got off antibiotics 2 weeks ago. And I'm sure you probably know this, like I'm sure you do. Like, fast forward, going down the Google rabbit hole, becoming a Google PhD non-expert in everything you can, because sometimes we're just like left to our own devices to figure out what's going on with us. And that's kind of what happened. And that's how I learned that, there's biofilm, and there's all these different bacterial colonies that can congregate on our bladder that become antibiotic resistant. And so that blew my mind. And I thought, okay, like, so what do? I don't want to be on antibiotics for the rest of my life. Antibiotics clearly help, but, last for 2 to 3 weeks for me before I start dealing with this again. I have an antibiotic resistant UTI. And then 2 years into that, I met you. I found UTRx. You told me about paranthocyanidins and a couple other things that are in UTRx. I started taking it, knocked out all of my symptoms. I have not dealt with one UTI since I've been on UTRx, and I don't even have to take it every day. I was on it for a good solid 3 to 6 months consistently. I had no issues, and anytime I feel anything starting to creep back in, I start taking it. On average, they'll go on it for like 3 to 6 months, and I'll just like take a maintenance dose every day. And I have had not one UTI since I've been on UTRx, and that's been 2 full years now.
Wow. Well, that's definitely saying something after what you've experienced. And speaking of these antibiotic resistant strains and biofilms, it's interesting because antibiotics, when people take them, um, it may not kill off everything that's in there, so that those bacterial species get exposed to it, and they actually create a defense mechanism or some kind of, they evolve in some way, and they pass that genetic information on to the next cell. And they also, inside biofilms, something really strange happens. Different species of bacteria will actually work together in a biofilm and share information to spread the resistance. Usually they compete, for food and space, but in a biofilm, they actually work together, different species. We see it in wound care, and it's easier to deal with there because you can you can use debridement enzymes or surgical debridement, but this is extra difficult. And you're right, the PACs, proanthocyanidins, they simply, one, they can break up biofilm, and two, they prevent it from ever happening because they don't allow bacteria to adhere to your tissues, to your bladder, to your urethra. So you don't have to kill it. It simply gets flushed out by your urine.
Oh, well, that's interesting because I actually didn't know how they worked. I just knew I took it, it worked. I'm going to keep taking it as a customer,
Yeah.
but that's super interesting.
It's called the anti-adhesion effect. So,
Huh, this makes me want to like take UTRx right now. This makes me want to get right back on it right now.
yeah,
It's been
it
a couple
just
months.
keeps it from sticking, and that's it. So, but thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate those more nuanced symptoms that I don't think a lot of people associate with a UTI. They might think it has something, it has to do with something completely different, but they are experiencing some, you know, foggy mind, or they can't think clearly, or they're forgetful, or like you said, weak urine strains, um, all these little things that they may not connect. Now they might actually, they'll see that they have a UTI based on other things. So this is really helpful information, and I'm looking forward to sharing your video so we can hopefully get the word out there for people, so they can know more about this and know that it presents in many different ways.
Yeah, I really think women would really benefit from knowing some of the other symptoms and knowing that there's like a non-pharmaceutical, non-antibiotic way, even though yours is pharmaceutical grade, like it's natural. So I think we would all prefer a more natural approach to things that's long-term effective, that's not very costly, and that's easy on our bodies. So yeah, I'm happy to get the word out.
Well, I couldn't have said it better. So thank you again so much for your time. And thank you for being a customer since basically we kicked off in March of 2020.
Yeah, 2 years now. Well, thank you for being here for all of us women. We all appreciate you.
It's been great talking to you.
You too, Brendan. See you
Take
soon.
care.
Bye bye.